Speaking of the ladies, yesterday in the Maravich Center was a pretty special atmosphere as it was senior day, and Coach Kim Mulkey was recognizing her crew, including Hailey Van Lith and Angel Reese, who were both tight-lipped after the press conference. We're not saying much to what the status of what they were going to, what their plans were going to be next, whether they were going to come back or whether they were going to stay. And they were asked about it after the game. Nobody was saying anything. The crowd was chanting, one more year, Adam. Angel Reese brought Shaq out, which is an excellent play. Kind of behind the scenes on that. Shaq's shooting the documentary with Amazon. His company is shooting the documentary with Angel Reese, Jaden Daniels, and Livy Dunn for is it Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah, for Amazon. And that's why he's spending a lot of time in Baton Rouge. And he's working on
he's always
documentary. Welcome. Yeah, for sure.
Because I thought that might have been a little bit of maybe a peek behind the curtain of if she was staying or going. Like, this is kind of a big,
right.
It's a big gesture for Shaq to come out, but the fact that he's in Baton Rouge and doing this documentary probably not as big or as much of a tell as you would think, because that's the biggest draw as LSU has.
I will say that I've kind of done some digging on this over and trying to find some information out on just kind of what they are feeling and thinking on Van Lith and Reese here. And I would say that if I was to walk up to the window today and make a bet on it, I would say that they both came back. And I'm not reporting that. I don't feel like, that's nothing that I would run to the press with. But, this is an opinion-based show, and we talk a lot about LSU athletics, and Angel Reese and Hailey Van Lith mean a ton to the present team of LSU women's basketball. And if they were to come back, that would be a huge effect on next year's team as well. And if I was to give a prediction today on whether they would come back or not, I would say they do. I would think they would. And, I think LSU has done a tremendous job behind the scenes of really laying out what the advantage for them to be on campus would look like next season. And, from an academic standpoint, they've both pretty much taken care of all of their requirements. Van Lith, she's a graduate transfer who came down. Reese is close to graduating. The academics part is, they would pretty much be Mettenberger and Burrow. I think Mettenberger was taking a bowling class and Burrow was taking a golf class. But and really, making sure the money, the NIL, all that stuff is right, and then showing them what the roster would look like with them on the team. It's a lot like what we talked about LSU baseball a couple of minutes ago. A culture and an environment that's being created is one that, the team really kind of runs it. Jay Johnson puts it together, and he's the guy that, gives you the outlines and the boundary of it, but then he's confident he's bringing in the right people that can run the locker room, run the team, want to be there. It's no accident that every off weekend Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz they were back in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
That's as good for recruiting as anything.
Oh, and they've talked about that. Like Milazzo was talking about whenever he came to LSU and what he continues to do at LSU. He's like, I was here whenever, I was catching different guys in the bullpen. And he goes, you can even rewind to last year. Kevin Gosman called me to come up because he wanted somebody to come catch. He was throwing to a kid in high school that was trying to catch Gosman, and he threw the first one. He dinked it off his head, and he was like, oh, no. And the kid behind the plate was like, oh, no. Like, I didn't know. He's like, this wasn't even me at full go. Like, I was giving him a feeder one. And then Milazzo showed up, and then he ended up catching 5 or 6 guys that are still in the bigs that wanted to come throw. And that's what LSU has, is just people that come back. and it's talented guys that are, like I said, still in the major leagues that want to not only give back to LSU, but it just produces an environment that other people want to be around.
Yeah.
And women's basketball can do the same thing. I got a different vibe from watching the presser and cutting it up. It felt very moot was the word, where, or mum is the word, excuse me, where it wasn't, they danced around it a lot, but it also felt like they weren't like smiling or like there's something coming next. It feels like Hailey Van Lith isn't coming back. That's just my read of the situation, what I got from it, where the way she answered the questions, I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of her pressers, but it didn't feel like it was something that she was excited to talk about.
Yeah.
And like Angel like crushes every media opportunity she has. It's impossible to get a read on her. She's always happy. So I don't know about her, but it felt like Van Lith maybe, as she talked a lot about like different opportunities that she's been doing with the WNBA while being in college and how like taxing that was with her time. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's the position change or what, but if anything, it would make more sense for Angel to leave and Van Lith to stay.
I agree.
I feel
from
like,
a basketball standpoint.
Exactly.
I feel like the decision is going to be made after the national. If you win the national championship, I feel like the motivation for both of them to come back is very little, because Angel would have just won 2 in a row, and a national championship's the reason Hailey's here.
Right.
So if they win, the motivation to come back and do this all over again is probably very little. But if they don't capture the national championship that they're both here for, the motivation might be a little bit higher on.
Yeah,
let's come back and play. Let's do it again.
Run it back to
the
get
same
what
team.
we came here for. Yeah.
Right.
And I can spin it the other way, where it's if you win one, it's like let's
Right.
get 3.
Right.
No doubt.
Flage's ball, and there's a part of it that I wonder if Kim Mulkey almost wants to close the book on
Right.
this chapter and
There
start
could
a new
be.
one.
There could be that. I mean,
Because she's the one that floated it out at the beginning.
Because Flage, watching yesterday, because there's no Michaela Williams, who's also going to be a star. Yeah. You know, other players weren't having their best game. She balled out.
That layup she hit was incredible.
Like when she can drive to the basket, she's gotten so good at finishing around the rim with a floater, a pull up, or
Euro.
Kyrie reverse yesterday.
I mean, in her open court ball handling,
Right.
I mean, like, has gotten so much better. And that's been able to show off her athleticism. Mm-hmm. I mean, because she's, I can't think of a floor outside of South Carolina where she hadn't been the clear-cut best athlete on the floor. I mean, like, some of the rebounds she gets, I mean, she's one-hand snatch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty impressive the way that she's athletically just a couple of clicks ahead of everybody. And that layup yesterday was just, I mean, she shows off every game now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like 1 or 2 possessions, she'll just like kind of show off.
Well, in the second half yesterday, the offense for LSU and the energy kind of died, and Kentucky started. I mean, they didn't really make a run, but they started pushing back and cutting away. And Flage responded on like 3 straight possessions, where she just was like, "All right, I got this."
Which she scored 22.
Yeah, and I think she had 3 or 4 points in the first half. So all of that was in the second half to keep LSU afloat. So there is like Lloyd said, there's a piece to it where it's like, I kind of want to see Michaela Williams and Flage and some of these younger players get the opportunity to really show off what all they can do.
Right, because that would be Kim Mulkey's like recruiting class,
Right.
you know, that she kind of handpicked to come to LSU as opposed to, I mean, she couldn't be more thankful that Angel Reese and Hailey Van Lith both picked LSU, but it feels like there's just something on the other side of the door if you're just trying to read into it as to why it's gone the way that it has.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's her last year. She said she's leaving.
Right.
And they haven't announced anything. They just did senior day.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It's
very odd.
It is strange a little bit. I get what you're saying. Remember Hughes